All right, gentlemen. So let's take a look at again. We're at the beginning of Parshas Pinchas. So what are the ideas? What are the ideas of Pinchas getting this covenant of peace, shalom, shleimus? Everybody knows that a person is striving for spiritual perfection. It's called shleimus, from the word shalom. And if you take a look at Parshas Chaye Sarah, take a look at Parshas Chaye Sarah all the way back in the book of Rashis. It's on page. Keep your marker over here. On page 106, the second pasuk says, "Vayhi Chaye Sarah 100 shana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shnei Chaye Sarah." Sarah lived 127 years. Then the second verse on page 10. Is that 106? Sorry, page 106. The second pasuk, second line says, "V'tama Sarah b'Kiryas Arba, hi Chevron." Sarah dies in a place called Kiryas Arba. But you see, the word Kiryas could also be read. In the Torah, there's no vowelization. We have a tradition on how the vowels are read. Kiryas, which is the place of Kiryat Arba, could also be read as Kriyas Arba, at the severing of the four. That means that when a person dies, we are made up of four elements. Anybody know what they are? Earth, spirit, fire, and water. We're made up of earth, spirit, ruach, fire, aish, and water. Exactly what that means I can't tell you. I could tell you, but I'd have to shoot you. But we're made up of four. We're said to be made up of four elements. Two of them are more spiritual: the spirit and fire, ruach and aish. Spirit, ruach is translated as wind, but that's a pathetic translation. The spirit and the fire element of a human being are both spiritual. Fire is an intangible. I mean, you see it, but you can't really touch fire. Earth and water are more physical, and we are made of these four components. Death is the severing of these four. When these four come apart, that's death. So Kiryas Sarah dies b'Kiryas Arba, which could also be read as b'Kriyas Arba. She dies at the tearing of these four things, at the separation of these four things. Okay? So that being the case, what did Pinchas do? Pinchas prevented death. And by preventing death, that means you've maintained shleimus. You've maintained shalom between these four elements and completion, totality of these four elements. And therefore, Pinchas is rewarded. Mida keneged mida, God pays you. You get what you deserve in life. And by the way, if you look around, you'll see down the line, people do get what they deserve. People get what they. You don't always know exactly what's in exchange for what. Down the line, you see it. Down the line in life, you've been around long enough. You see nice people generally have nice lives. Nasty people, nasty things happen to them. You see it. It doesn't always work out. Doesn't always pan out. But you'll see down the line that it does work out that way. And so Pinchas, because he does an act that prevents death, so he's given the reward, which is shalom. You're going to stay whole, and that's why we have this tradition of Pinchas becomes Eliyahu who lives forever. And the Nach says Eliyahu Navi ascended heaven, did not taste death as people normally understand death. There was a guy in Lakewood, I think. He was driving somewhere in the New Jersey Turnpike, and he sees this limousine's broken down. He gets out of the limousine, out to help. It's got a flat tire or something. He helps the limousine driver fix the flat tire. And the guy says, "So what's your name?" He tells him his name. Okay, the next day, a huge truck pulls up, a florist from a florist shop pulls up in front of his house, and a guy gets out. He gives him brings in a huge bouquet of flowers. There's a little note attached to it. So the guy opens up the note. And he sees, "Listen, thanks for the help on the highway yesterday when I was broken down. I've taken the liberty of paying off your mortgage. Sincerely, Donald Trump." So, there are two lessons from the story. Number one, if you're going to help people, make sure they're in a limousine. That certainly increases your chances. But number two, you do good things for people down the line. Down the line, there's a payoff. Again, it's not always as obvious as that. But down the line, there you see in life, people who are nice, you usually have nice kids. People are nasty, have nasty kids. There's no mystery in life. It doesn't, people are, you just see it playing out. Okay, sometimes it takes many years. And not everything, sometimes nice people suffer, sometimes nasty people prosper, but generally as a pattern, you see that you get what you deserve in life. When I was in yeshiva, I was here in the yeshiva, and a friend of mine, we're walking, and on Jaffa Road, right at King George. We just turned a corner onto Jaffa Road, and there was a pipe sticking out of the ground about this high. My friend smacked his shin on the pipe, and he grabbed his shin and he starts hopping around on one foot. So I did what any normal person would do. I dissolved laughing, hysterical. It was hysterical. The guy's in the middle of downtown making a total idiot of himself, hopping around on one foot. So I was laughing as I was laughing. He didn't laugh. I laughed. About a year and a half later, I was engaged, and I was walking with my fiance, who's today my wife and my credit card user. We were walking to meet some of her relatives. And so she, like a normal person, stayed on the sidewalk, and I decided to cut across the lawn. And as I cut across the lawn, there was a pipe sticking out of the ground about this high. And as I walked past, I smacked myself in the shin real hard, and I grabbed my shin, and I started hopping around on one foot. And she didn't laugh. You know, she was like, "Oh, are you okay?" You know, and I'm hopping around. And I remember my first thought was intense pain. And my second thought was, I know why this is happening. Because you get what you deserve in this life. Now, it's not necessarily true, by the way. Sometimes it could have also been because I kicked my brother numerous times, and I ran to do averas, and I ran away from the cops. So there are different reasons why it could have happened. But sometimes in life, you see what goes around. There's even a verse that says, Shalach lach mecha pnei hamayim. Cast your bread on the waters, ki berov yomim timtze'ena. With the passage of time, you're going to find it. Throw your bread in the water, and with the passage of time, the truth is, if you throw your bread in the water, you're not going to find it all. It's going to disintegrate and turn into crumbs. But it's a verse in Mishlei written by King Solomon. What he's saying is, in life, you know, you do it, and it's going to come back. It'll come one way or another. You see, they're remarkable. I'll tell you two stories, remarkable stories. One of them was here in Israel. There was a terrorist attack, and a soldier happened to be passing by. And he saw that somebody was somebody that was badly injured. A 20-year-old kid was badly injured. And he picks him up, takes him in his car, drives him off to the hospital. By that time, the parents come, everybody comes, they take him into surgery. And the soldier turns around and he leaves. He sees he's not needed, so he turns around and he leaves. And the doctors say to the mother, you know, he had gotten here 10 minutes later, he would have been gone. They did surgery, he was able to be saved. Okay. The parents go home with their son. And they own a little makolet somewhere in the north of Israel, a little shop. And they really wanted to meet the soldier, but he had disappeared. So they put up a sign in their store, if anybody knows the identity of the soldier who was there on a certain day and brought our son to the hospital, we'd like to meet him, this, that, and the other. Okay, about a year and a half later, a woman walks into the shop. And she walks in and she sees the sign. And she says, oh, you know, I remember my son telling me he was on his way home from his on furlough from the Army. And I remember he told me that there was an accident. He took and it was right around there. That might very well be my son. She says to the lady in the store, that might very well be my son. So she picks up the phone. She calls up. He says, Yigal was, you know, there's a sign here in the store on that day. I said, yeah, it was me. I dropped off at the hospital. There's no reason to stay around. And the woman in the store says to her, you know, I really have no way to thank you. I really like to thank you. The woman says to her, I'd like to speak to you in the back room for a second. So they go into the back room. She says, I want to tell you something. This is not the first time we've met. He goes, really? She goes, yeah, you know, I was once in a shopping mall, and you were there in the shopping mall, and you befriended me about 20 years ago. And at the time I was expecting, and I wasn't happy about it under life circumstances. I was going to have an abortion. And you befriended me, and you started speaking to me, and you told me that you convinced me not to have an abortion, and I didn't. I didn't have the abortion. I had a son. That son that you convinced me to have was the son who saved your son's life. Right? So, you know, what goes around in life comes around. You know, again, sometimes it's more obvious than others. The other was a story that took place in World War I. There was a Jew who was in a German regiment, and they captured a regiment of Italian soldiers. And they captured these guys, and the German commander of the regiment said, listen, we're not going to schlep them around, take them out in the forest and gun them down. We're not going to schlep around a bunch of POWs. So there was one Jew in the regiment. He said to the German officer, I'm sorry, sir, you know, we captured them, and there's, you know, we're not going to just shoot them down in cold blood. He said, yes, we are, because I'm the one in charge. He says, no, we're not, and you'll do it over my dead body. So at a certain point, he decided, all right, we'll let it go, and they just took these Italian soldiers. All right, a few years after the World War, this Jew emigrated to the United States. He went to Chicago, and he was working in Chicago as a glazier. He made windows, made windows. All right, he's in Chicago. One day he sees there's a fire in a building, and the building is all gutted out, and they tossed all the glass, all the windows that were blackened, they tossed them off on the sides. This guy drives over with his wagon, he loads up the windows, Figures, he'll be able to take them. We'll be able to salvage them. That's his business. We'll wash them off with her. So the whole day he spends a couple hours loading up his wagon, and his hands are black from the soot from the windows. So he goes into the building, and he decides to wash off his hands. He turns on the faucet, and instead of water, out comes beer. So people from Chicago are happy. Beer comes out of the faucets. It turned out this was during the time of Prohibition, and this was a mafia beer. What were they called when you had a clandestine but they had a word for it when you did it clandestinely. Because speakeasy was when you went into the bar. The bar was called a speakeasy because you had to talk quietly when you're drinking. But it was called a bootlegging. It was a bootlegging operation, and the guys wash off, and beer comes out. Well, one of the mafia guys is there, and he sees that there's a guy who just noticed that there's beer in this operation, so he grabs the guy and brings him into the back room, and a bunch of mafia guys are there. He said, what are we going to do with this guy? He just uncovered our operation. He said, well, we're going to have to take him out into the woods and shoot him. And one of them says, well, we better ask the big boss first, because he's not going to be happy if we do anything without asking him. So they call, Joe, Big Turtle, Kameta, or whatever his name is, and Big Turtle comes in, and he said, listen, this guy, he says, okay, take him out and shoot him. And then he says, something, you look familiar. She says, I don't know, I said, where are you from? So he says, I'm originally from Germany, but I can't. He says, one second. Well, where did you do in Germany? He says, I was in the war. I was a soldier. Then I migrated to Chicago. He says, were you in a platoon that once captured a platoon of Italian soldiers? He goes, yeah. He says, you're the guy you said not to kill them, right? He says, yeah, well, I was one of those Italian soldiers. He says, boys, he saved my life, so we ain't going to kill him. He says, but you ain't going to talk, are you? No, talk. No, not me talk, I don't speak of the lingo. It says, you see it down the line, you see it. Okay, it's not always that obvious, but you see it. Okay, that's as far as Pinchas, why he gets the reward. Now, take a look at the Torah then does something very strange. Let's see if you notice it. God promises the reward. So we spoke about that yesterday. Then the Torah says, V'shem ish Yisrael hamuka asher hukas ha-Midyanis, the Jew who was killed with the Midianite woman, Zimri ben Salu nasi beis of Shimon. Zimri ben Salu, the prince of the house of Shimon. He's the prince of the house of Shimon. He's the head of the tribe of Shimon. You talk about a very, very prominent individual. V'shem ha'isha hamuka ha-Midyanis, the name of the smitten Midianite woman, Kozbi vas Sur, Kozbi the Lord's Rosh Umos Beis of Midian. How's the article try? He's the head of a people's house in the house of Midian. The Gemara says she was a Midianite princess. Talking about a very, very prominent person here. And the Torah says these are two very prominent people. Anything strike you as strange about it? The Medrash, as a matter of fact, the Medrash says that it was the king who told his daughter, go and entice the Jewish people. Go and cause their leader to stumble. So she was sent on a mission of causing them to sin. Now, anything strike you as strange here? But he said, nothing too deep, nothing too complex. Something about the way this is all written should strike you as a bit strange. And it even begins from last week's parsha where Pinchas kills the two people. Something about it should strike you as strange. Something about it should strike you as a little bit, there's something odd over here. So I think at page 876. Page 876. Something about this whole structure should strike you as strange. Anybody? Binyamin? Anybody? Eliezer? Nothing? So I'll tell you what it is. If you look at the story, the Torah tells you a whole story. I mean, what would your reaction be if I said, there was a guy in America who killed somebody else? Guy was standing outside his house, and he took a gun and he shot him. Guy wasn't bothering him, and he shot him. And by the way, the guy who got shot, his name was John Lennon, and the guy who shot him was named John Hinckley. That's the guy, right? Hinckley killed Allen, right? The guy who shot him the guy who got shot was John Lennon. I remember seeing the news the night when Lennon was it was the first item on the nighttime news. There's a picture of John Lennon. The guy says, John Lennon was shot today. It starts off, tells you, sorry, if it was just somebody regular got shot, it wouldn't make the news at all in America. It'd be on the back page somewhere. Some kid in a school shot up about 14 other kids in a school. Okay, the back news. Let's get to the sports. Come on, that happens every day. John Lennon got shot. It starts off with the headlines. John Lennon got shot. Tell me who got shot. A very prominent man got shot over here.
It doesn't say a man got it's John. His name was John.
Right. It doesn't tell you the whole story. That, by the way, man, there was a leader of the there was an American civil rights leader was standing on a balcony, and another guy took a gun and shot him. The name of the leader was Martin Luther King, and the guy who killed him was James Earl Ray. It didn't say this. It said Martin Luther King was killed. You know, that was you know, James Earl Ray killed him. These are people who, their name goes on through history. Everybody knows it. Well, there was a man in a car, and somebody else was in a library. He took a shot at him and he killed him. The man in the car, by the way, in the convertible happened to be John Kennedy. And the guy in the library was Lee Harvey Oswald. I didn't say it like that. It tells you Kennedy was shot. The news, the what do you call it? That's how it's. Here Torah tells you, well, Pinchas picked up, there are two men, some people consorting. Pinchas picked up a spear and he killed the two of them. Right, and then it turned out that her name was Lady Di, and his name was what do you call it, was whatever you know, Prince Zimri over here. I would tell you who the people were. That's big news over there. So why does the Torah all of a sudden, almost as an afterthought? And by the way, his name was Zimri. He was a leader of a tribe of Israel, one of 12 people. And she's a Midianite princess named Cosby. Sounds like almost as an afterthought. Hey, that should be on the front. That should be the lead story. Or it should be the lead of the lead story. You understand the problem here? The Torah throws it in after telling me the whole story and his reward. Oh, by the way, these were the names. Why?
Is it to show, like, it starts off with just, like, saying a man and a
Why?
woman. I mean, like, no,
Well, I'm asking you why, not what. You're telling me what. I'm asking you why.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm asking you, we know what. I'm asking you why.
Right, I'm trying to get to
Yeah,
that.
no, to get to that first.
It's showing that, like, no matter what you're ranking, it's bad. Like, even for someone
Okay,
who
even high-ranking people, there are no dispensations. Okay, that could be. But okay, that could be. I don't say it's not true, but there's something a little more. Torah's trying to communicate something even more about Pinchas. What do you say, Justin?
That Pinchas was the one, the transgression by the two individuals. The names didn't matter who the individuals were until afterwards. It was the fact that
Good.
stood up and
Stood
against his transgression.
Very good. In other words, the theme of our story is not who was killed. The theme of the story is who stood up and took action. That's the name of the story is Pinchas. The name of the story is not Zimri. The name of the story is Pinchas. That's the first thing we want to know. The first thing we want to know is the name of the story is gun lobby protest, right? Or protest against guns. A man was killed and a woman was killed, blah, 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 and this is the news because the title of our story, what we're interested in is whether there should be gun laws in America. And by the way, the guy who got killed was Kennedy, right? Because I'm not interested in Kennedy right now. I'm interested in what guns could do. You understand? Then the whole story reads differently. So you're right. The first part of it is, hey, listen, the name of the game here is Pinchas. Yeah, it was prominent people. Yeah, he took action. I want you to know what a man's capable of doing. That's what the Torah is telling you. A man's capable of taking action, number one. Number two, the commentaries point out that the Torah is putting it in as an afterthought to block us off in two directions. Sometimes in life, you go after somebody prominent because that will get you, if not fame, infamy. I want my name to be heard. And if I can't do it in a decent way, so I'll knock off Martin Luther King, then everybody will know who I am. If I can't get my name heard, so I'll knock off John Lennon. Then everybody's going to hear of John Hinckley, right? Sometimes in life there's a perverted sense of I want to become well known, and I have nothing to offer to become well known in a decent way. So at least I'll be infamous. Everybody will know my name now. Number one. Number two, you know, sometimes when big people are getting involved, I don't want to stick my nose in there. You know, goodness knows what kind of revenge I'm setting myself up for. There was a judge in Italy, recently, within the last few years, the judge really sentenced 300 mafiosos to prison. 300 mafiosos, a judge in Italy sentenced to prison. I don't know that I would want to get involved with that. I'm not sure if I would want. If I was the judge, I would find real good reason to recluse myself from the case. Yeah, I'm not feeling so well today, fellas. I got a golf match today. I'm not interested in 300 mafiosos in prison. That's not good for your health, right? Just ask the lead prosecutor in Egypt. You can't ask him because he's already been knocked off by the what are they called? The Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood made him an honorary member. Right? So he's the leader. You know, I don't know. I want to get involved with that. Pinchas doesn't have any considerations here. That's why the Torah says it after. I don't care who the people are. that people are going to make me prominent for killing them, that people are intimidating. I don't care what they are. Something has to be done. Exactly what Justin's saying. Something has to be done, and Pinchas does it with no other considerations. That's the lesson of the Torah here. Okay? And what you're saying, Binyamin, is true. What you're saying is true as well. But the main lesson here is that's not a consideration for me. Okay. Now, let's go on. The very next verse on page 876 says, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, Sorores hamidyanim v'hikisem osam. So, the Torah, Rashi says over here, the arts go here, harass the Midianites and smite them. Harass them. I mean, how do you harass them? Torment them, harass them, exactly what you do. And not only that, and smite them, but the war doesn't take place now. The war against Midian doesn't take place till much later. But the Torah says, torment the Midianites. I mean, how do you torment them? I used to torment my brother all the time, right? And I had all sorts of ways of tormenting my brother. But what does it mean, torment them? Man, how do you torment? You are a Midianite. How do you torment the nation of Midian? So the commentaries say, well, walk past with your weapons. Let them think about it a little bit. Right? Just hold your weapons up. Let them think about it before it actually happens. That's tormenting the Midianites. That's
troop movements on the border, right?
Troop movements on the border. Just a little, when's it going to happen over here? Let's torment the Midianites a little bit, right? That's what the commentators say. That's what torment means. In other words, you're going to go to war against them. Let them think about it before it happens. That's worse. The only thing worse than having a surgery or having a root canal is the anticipation beforehand. Right, when you're in a dentist's office, the only thing worse than being in a dental chair is being in the waiting office, smelling other people's enamel, right? And knowing that, and when you hear them, and you're going in there, okay, just get me in the chair already. Let's get it over with. And you get into the chair, and that guy's fiddling around with all his instruments over there, and he's with all that torture, those instruments. That's worse than the drilling itself. The anticipation in life is always worse. Much worse than the test, than taking the test is the anticipation. Now we got a final tomorrow, and I know I'm going to get clobbered. So once I'm in the test, a big deal, just do it and get out of there, then get on with life. But it's that anticipation. You can't sleep the night before. Person who's ever been waiting for medical results, serious medical results. The results themselves, ironically in life, once a person gets the results, we'll deal with it. He can work on the next thing. It's that waiting for the results that causes you to toss. There's a statement. They say, "Ein simcha elakatar sasvekas." There's no joy in life better than getting out of doubt. Doubt is the worst state to be in life. It's not actually not in the Talmud. It's actually a statement from the commentaries. In lecha simcha elakatar sasvekos. It's actually from a 18th century, one of the 18th century commentaries. Tzel Hamalos is the name of the sefer it appears in. Tzel Hamalos. And he said, which is true. In life, there's no question. Sometimes you got, should I marry her or I shouldn't marry her? Should I marry her or I shouldn't marry her? Then you get a phone call from the girl who says, sorry, I'm dumping you. Okay, it's over. Game's over. At least I'm out of doubt. At least now I can sleep. Now, up until that point, should I, shouldn't I? Then you're in that state of doubt. Same thing about a test. How did I do? Did I get, you ever remember when you took a test and you hear two guys talking about it out in the hallway? What was the answer number 19? Oh, yeah, definitely. And you're like, oh, I don't think I want to hear this, because I know that it wasn't what I wrote. And you're all nervous about it. Until you get the test back, I got clobbered. Okay, I'll deal with it now. Right? One way, I'll just avoid going home. But I'll deal with it. So there's a concept of let the person think about it. That's the first idea here. Now I want to tell you something, a remarkable halacha. What sororis abididi means. Pay attention very carefully, because it's a very, very important insight into human nature, and very often it carries over into Yiddishkeit. The Jewish people would go to war. There's a halacha that when they went to war, they had to leave a flank open. They had to leave one flank open when they went to war. You surrounded the other nation. The old days you used to put up, nowadays you don't surround anybody. Right? You sit in the back room, pull out a laptop, and take out a couple of cities. Right? And the old days, war was much more personal in those days, so much more job satisfaction. You get to pour hot oil down on people from on top of the wall, and you get to flip over the ladder as the invading army comes in. I personally would have wanted to have been an archer. That's good. You know, you're safe. You're behind a crack in the wall, and you can nail people. A couple guys on your own team who you don't like. You know, oh, sorry, got him in the back again. There you go, it slipped. Yeah, there's a bit of jobs there. I never wanted to be one of those guys. You know, there's those guys who put the ladders against the wall. They go climbing up. You know, how did you decide who's the first one up the ladder? I wouldn't want to be the first one up there. They got fresh oil up there. You know, it's still boiling hot. You know, by the time the supply runs down, then we'll come in. That was like when I played tackle football. So I was always a free safety. When the guy was down, then I jumped on the pile. That's very, very unpopular. I wasn't going to get involved. These guys were bigger than me. They were much stronger than me. You jump on afterwards. I'd be an archer. I'd be a perfect archer. So you have the what do you call it? The Jewish people are besieging a city. You're besieging the enemy. So the halacha is you surround them, and the Rambam says you surround them on three sides and leave one flank open. Why?
Give them the option of escape.
Give them the option of escape. Why would you want to give them the option of escape?
Well, you don't want to kill people.
We don't want to kill, because we're just nice guys. You know, we fight wars with rules, right? Even to modern day Israel, you know, where you know, you got to fight it where they're hiding among their people, where any other normal army in the world would turn the entire place into a parking lot. So the Israelis go door to door at great personal expense, by the way. And everywhere else in the world, you know, oops, we took out a couple of hundred citizens in Afghanistan like the United States did. Well, we're sorry, our bad. You know, and we go on no United Nations investigation and so on. Okay, that we understand the world's bias against us is not worth getting upset about it. That's the way it always was, it's the way it always will be, and it's a double standard. That we all know. It's always humorous to see what kind of arguments they come up with. Okay. The Jewish people, there are two opinions here. What's going on? One opinion is that even in war, we're compassionate. Even in war, we're compassionate. We leave the enemy the option to escape. We leave the enemy the option to escape. That's one opinion. There's another opinion that it's in our benefit. Because when you surround an enemy on four sides, what happens? They fight harder. They've got they got nothing to lose now. May as well take as many of them with me. I'll be Davy Crockett at the Alamo. Take as many with them as I can. They claim when they found Davy Crockett's body, there were 20 Mexicans around him that he had taken out with his gun. That's what they claim. I don't know who they is, and I don't know if it's true. That's what they say. So, yeah, I'm going anywhere. I may as well take as many of them out as I can. You leave a person a psychological escape that takes some of the fight out of them. That's in your benefit to do so. It's in your benefit to do so. Now, having said that, so the commentators say Sororis Amidyanim means also leave them on three sides. Only surround them on three sides. That way you'll take some of the fight, then you really clobber them. That's what some of the commentaries say here. That's what Sororis Amidyanim. It's a strategy of war. Now, I want to tell you something. This is very much important for people in Yiddishkeit as well. It's a psychological benefit in life. It has to do with how you raise your children. It has to do with how you deal with a wife. It has to do especially how a wife deals with her husband. And it has to do with an approach to Yiddishkeit. What does that mean? You get into Judaism, and by the way, get into Judaism only means the first 40 years or so that you're involved with it. And sometimes you just feel the walls are closing in on you. I can't do anything. I can't eat this. I can't do this. I'm not allowed to do that. Person has to know, one second. I have to have my route. I have to have my my opening. What's the word? Vice. Yeah, vice implies a little too sinful. I have to have my escape, my outlet. That's the word. I have to have an outlet over here. I can't be involved in reading Aramaic words all day long, and then when I finish, go off to Shul to daven mincha. I'll go crazy from that. And I'm not allowed to turn lights on, and I'm not allowed to do this hit four before. I'm not allowed to go to clubs. I'm not allowed to do drugs. I mean, well, you know what? Okay, I enjoy playing tennis. Play tennis. I enjoy listening to music. Listen to music as long as it goes. You have to know what your outlet is. You have to know what level you're on. You wouldn't expect to see Rav Samet going out to play tennis right now, right? It's not. He's past that, but he has to have an outlet too. So you have certain people. Their outlet is I can't learn Torah all day, so I read art scroll books about tzaddikim. When I first got married, again, depending on your level. When I first got married, I said to my wife, "Listen, I was in Kollel and I was young and I was frum and I was just ready to kill all Amalekites, and you know, and I was really really drilling." And at a certain point, I said to my wife, I can't do this. I was learning in Kollel at the time, and we're learning 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day. At a certain point, I said to my wife, listen, I got to have an outlet. And I didn't feel like reading, at night, reading a book on Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. That wasn't what my idea of an outlet. So I said to my wife, listen, I got to have something, either sports or politics. And my wife said, definitely not politics. It's stupid. Hey, make it sports, which is what I was hoping she would say. Right? So for a while there, I was getting Sports Illustrated. I had a guy with getting Sports Illustrated. My wife would censor the poopy pictures, and I'd read Sports Illustrated. I would, I learn it with a chavrusa. Whatever it was, that was the outlet. So you have to know at a certain level what your outlet is. What your outlet is. The healthiest outlet for a Torah Jew is definitely playing sports. We encourage kids to play sports. I saw kids need to play. If you trap the kid, he's going to rebel. You can't box somebody in. I once saw a kid, when I first my first year living in Israel, I saw this little frum kid on a Shabbos afternoon. He's walking around with the leg of a chair, a broken leg of a chair, Shabbos afternoon. So I said to him, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're playing." I said, "What are you playing?" He said, "Police and protesters." that was their idea. That was their idea of a game. Police and protesters. Remember, the protesters are the good guys. The police are the bad guys around here. The police and protesters. That was the idea. So everybody has to know what their outlet is. Sports is a great outlet, especially activity, running, jogging, anything you need to do is a great outlet. When I first got married, I would play basketball on a regular basis until my wife put me on probation. My wife saw me play a couple of times, and she said, "Okay, you cannot play basketball." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Every bad trait known to man comes out by you on the basketball court. You're haughty, you're selfish, you get angry, you're off. She put me on probation. And then I had to wait 6 months. I begged after 6 months, "Can I go back out and play?" She said, "Yes." I went out and played, broke my foot. Right? So much for that, But at the end of the day, a person has to have an outlet. Now, I'll show you something very interesting. I heard this from Rabbi Gottlieb years ago. On Purim, we get drunk. Purim, there's a mitzvah to get drunk. If you're going to get drunk and you're going to behave like a chimpanzee, it's not a mitzvah. And if you're going to get drunk and you're going to be vulgar or crude, then don't get drunk. But many Jewish men, they drink on Purim, they imbibe, and you have some fun. You dance around, and you may speak divrei Torah. You have a little bit more fun, and it's completely out of character for what frum people normally do. What's the idea of getting drunk on Purim? Obviously, there's the idea of celebrating and the miracle. There's the plain meaning of what the drinking on Purim is. There's a much deeper psychological benefit in Purim. You know what it is? Here I am in this restrictive, oppressive, barbed wire, fenced, enclosed religion for an entire year. One day a year comes where basically the restrictions are off within limit. And even if I cross the line a little bit, we turn a blind eye. It's Purim. It has a tremendous psychological benefit. Because for those who need it, I know that I do have an outlet over here. I knew that there's one day a year that I could really let go, just like I did on a college campus. There's one day I could really let go, within limits. I used to have my favorite moment of the year used to be the first time when they would read the Megillah, and they would come to the first Haman. In every shul, when they read the Megillah, they say Haman, so there's an explosion of noise in the shul. So I used to look at the fathers, not the sons. The kids, with their graggers, with their guns, with everything else. There were certain fathers in the shul who would also make noise, but it was coming from the depths of their neshama. When they shook, when they banged the spoon on a big pan or something, whatever they were doing, they're dressed up, you could see these guys like, it was almost like they were saying, "I am free for 24 hours of this oppression." It was clear. I used to, year after year, the same fathers, and they would spend the whole day getting the maximum out of Purim. They would get drunk, and they're dancing in the streets and hugging everybody who comes by, and that sort of thing. Good. That's what they needed. I didn't need it. I locked myself, barricade myself on my balcony overlooking the street. I have a cage out there. Nobody could get in. I had one guy used to come in every year, give me a bear hug, and almost break my glasses. Right, so I barricade my hand, and I'm interested in dancing with men, and I'm not interested in dancing with drunks. And drunk men is the worst. And so I sit on my balcony, and I just watch the show on the street. It's great. I love it. I stand there watching guys clobber each other. And watch it. Had two yeshiva guys with cars driving by. The yeshiva guys block the cars in the middle of the street. And there were these two guys who thought they were clever, and they would jump on the hood of every car as it came by, right on the street, right outside of. We got this little cul-de-sac where we live. They're jumping on a car. So most cars just wait till they get off. This one guy didn't feel like waiting, so he sped up and hit the brakes. They went sliding off like greased beef, and they were drunk as good. I loved it. I thought, well, I don't have to even pay for the show. That's your outlet. Fine, that's a kosher outlet. In Lakewood, they had a guy, the janitor, one of the janitors worked in Lakewood, the Lakewood Yeshiva. He said, "I've been here for 20 years. He said, every year on Purim, I see hundreds of yeshiva guys getting drunk. A few blocks away, there's a seminary with hundreds of girls. And not once in 20 years have I seen an inappropriate incident between them. If it was me and my buddies, we'd be in prison before morning. That's what the guy said. Right? Now, so there are limitations, but you need an outlet. Be very honest what your outlet is. Be very honest how much you need. Because people close themselves off in Yiddishkeit. It's a difficult enough religion. I shouldn't say difficult. It's a challenging enough religion without adding more restrictions to ourselves. And a person has to know that, especially about tshuva, you're taking on quite a bit. You're taking on quite a bit. Take it slow. Take it slow. Don't go rushing anywhere. Where next thing you know, my goodness, I'm handcuffed over here. That's what the Torah. Same thing when husbands and wives. Wives would like husbands to be very much, toe the line. Men, Rabbi Tatz once said a very interesting statement somewhere in the Zohar. It says, a man is a boy always. A man is a little boy always, and a girl is a woman from the first day. Right? Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but it's 100% true. When I drive past a construction site, I still want to get in one of those things and drive. I played with little trucks and cars when I was young, and I want to play with big ones when I'm older. I would love one day, it's like one of those Make-A-Wish contests on TV, I would get into one of those forklifts. Just give me that, just for a couple hours, let me play with that forklift. You see the cherry picker fixing the light? I would love to go up and down in that thing, move that thing around. I mean, we're always, we had little toys when we were little, we got bigger toys when we were big. What do little girls do? They're a mommy from day one. They're responsible, they could run the house, they could take care of everything. Men, at the older, men in their 50s are irresponsible as can be. They're still forgetting to bring home the tomatoes, right? Whatever the wife told them to do. You have to know, and with children this is particularly true. With children, when you're raising children, as a father especially, the last thing you want is when your kid says to you, Dad, you never let us do anything. Kid comes to ask you permission for something. Can we do this, that, and no? How come we can never do anything? You always say no. As a father, you better always say yes. Save your bullets. Because you're going to have to say no to certain things. In the religious community, we have to say no to the internet. We have to say no to other forms of technology. Save your bullets. Give the kids whatever they want so that when you say no, they don't turn around and say, you never let us have anything, so I'm going to do it anyway. The kid has to respect you that you're on his side. And if you're saying no because it's for his benefit, and this is simply unacceptable. As opposed to everything is no, everything is no. So I'll give you 3 examples. Kid wants a bicycle. Okay, a bicycle is perfectly acceptable. Little boys need bicycles. Yeah, you got to have a bicycle. Give him a bicycle. Okay, the kid wants to play with firecrackers. Right? Absolutely no. You're not playing with firecrackers. Now, there's always that gray area in between. The gray area is what I would really prefer not. But if I have to, I'm willing to compromise it. One example is rollerblades. My kid wanted rollerblades. Okay, I was an active kid, and I understood it. The reason I didn't like rollerblades is because broken wrists from rollerblade accidents were the #1 injury in the United States emergency rooms when rollerblades were big. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of having a kid chas v'shalom, have a broken wrist. Okay, but I said you get the rollerblades. I was a kid, I would have had rollerblades. I can't say no. I'd prefer not. Same thing with the Game Boy. I didn't like the idea of the kid being sitting like that all day on the Game Boy. But I realized that it burns itself out after a while. There's just so long that a kid could do it. After a while you get tired of it, you go on to the next thing. So I didn't really like it. Wanted a Game Boy, I got him a Game Boy. But then when a kid wants internet access or he wants an iPhone, then I can say no. And he can't turn around and say to me, you can't close it off on 4 sides. And one of the mistakes that parents make why kids go off in the frum community, parents, they're too rigid. They're just too tight. I had a kid when I was in yeshiva. When I was in yeshiva, there was a kid who used to come to the class. I was 18 years old. I was in yeshiva here in Israel, more modern yeshiva. But there was a kid who sat in the class, never brought a Gemara to the shir. Never brought a Gemara. He just sat there, and he'd listen once in a while. He'd participate in the argument, but he never had a Gemara in front of him. So I asked the rabbi one day, I said, what's with this guy? So he said to me, look, when he was 5 years old, all the other kids went out to play. His father not only didn't let him play so he could study with him, his father made him learn Gemara. Can you imagine 5 years old learning Gemara? 5 years old learning Gemara, it's like a man make a man take care of his kids at home. 5 years old, you got to learn Gemara. He said he developed such a loathing for Gemara, he can't open a Gemara to this day. It's a miracle that he keeps Shabbat, it's a miracle that he's still religious. But he developed such a loathing. The father was too. The father put it as clear. The father was he shackled the kid. And you can't do that. It's a rule in life. And it applies to everybody under all circumstances. When you deal with people, if you're a boss, Don't close your employees in. You got to give them a little bit of leverage, a little bit of tolerance, because if you close them in, then you're going to end up, they're going to fight you because they got nothing to lose at that point. Why not? You took everything away from them. Why shouldn't they fight you? That's the idea. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.